So there's this idea that if you achieve a certain outcome, then all your problems will be solved. You'll be happy, your life will be complete. It's different for everyone, obviously, and it doesn't just apply to artists. I know for me, for a long time, I was really obsessed with writing a novel, getting it published. I thought if I can just get a novel published, then whatever, I'll be happy, I'll be taken seriously as a writer, I'll be considered a real writer, whatever that means. And that drove me for a long time. That was what I really wanted. But sometimes what you want is different to what you need. And what I needed for growth was not that, was not that outcome. And I feel like I've finally got to a place where I've let go of that outcome, I'm now focused more on the process of writing and getting really good at that. Excuse me. And I think that can be one of the hardest things to do, to just focus on the process as the thing, not necessarily to achieve an outcome or to make money. That's another big one, isn't it, in our culture? If I make this amount of money, then that's it, that's success, that's perfection, that's happiness, rather than focusing on now, what you can do now to grow. Because really that's the outcome, isn't it? It's growth. That's what we all need, but it's not necessarily aligned with what we want all of the time. And I think it is definitely a balance that I struggle with. Because you want to have goals, you want to set goals for yourself. You want to visualize a future and think about how that looks and believe in yourself to be able to achieve your dreams. It's great to have dreams, but it's not, I don't know, what do you think? It's a balance that I struggle with, definitely, because it's like I want to have dreams, but then I also need to let go of outcomes. So, we're not exactly here to offer you answers of how to overcome this. It's something that I definitely am still growing and learning how to let go.
Yeah, I understand what you mean, because you want to be moving in a direction, you want to have somewhere that you are moving towards. You can't just stay still and not move. You have to move somewhere, so you might as well move towards something that you have dreamt of achieving. That makes sense. I mean, the journey is interesting because what you want now and what you are working towards and what you are moving in the direction of, at some point on that journey, you might discover that what you thought you wanted isn't actually what you need. But it's important that we're taking steps to move somewhere, right? Because we have to move forward. It's important that we have a visualization or an idea in our mind of something and that we work towards that. That's important because we have to move somewhere, and it is a game of not really knowing. Okay, you have to, I think what's important is that you have to give up this idea that right? It's like that quote, isn't it? He who thinks he knows doesn't know. He who knows he doesn't know knows. You have to accept that what you think in your mind is a mirage. It's a type of an illusion, but it still has significance. It still matters. It still is a path that we are on, that we are taking towards what we need. What we need, we might not necessarily know what we need. I work with other artists and other professional people in a coaching situation. And so I know that what they are presenting as being what is called an NLP, the presenting problem, is what they think is what the problem is. Now, it rarely ever is what they think the problem is. And I think this is a good example of what we think we want and what we need are different things, right? But it's like there are themes here. So it's like it's been really interesting learning about coaching, because you learn about themes, and essentially what's the biggest part of coaching is been growth, right? Because essentially growth is the name of the game, right? You want to be doing things that elicit growth in you, that things that are uncomfortable, and then once you grow, you have a more firmer position and understanding of what you need, right? But you never quite know, like, you know, once you've attained one level of growth from doing something, you then have another thing that you think you want, and then you move towards that, and then you learn something on the journey. Right? It's like good story writing does this, right? As well. It's like the lead character thinks they want this or thinks that they want that, and then on the journey to trying to attain this difficult thing that they think that they want, they learn something about themselves, and then they realize that they don't actually want it at all. It's like it was connection that they wanted. It was insight into their own soul that they wanted. It, you know, I mean, things are never external. That's a really good way to think about this and to remember, is that we're not actually looking for external things in the outside world. It's like what we're looking for is internal change. So, you know, I want currently at the moment, I'm focusing on creating works that are more, that resonate on you know, through, you know, potentially millions of people, right? To get my name, my reputation in a powerful place. So when I, you know, I'm looking to do big pieces of work now, I'm thinking about doing an album, for example, you know, and I'll need to, there's no point me writing an album if I can't sell it. So, right, so that's where I'm headed towards. Now, I know that what I really want is internal growth, but I think we tend to think about things externally because we've been conditioned that way. You know, we've been told that, oh, well, you go to work to earn money, right? It's outcome. You go to do something for outcome. You know, you earn money, then you get married, then you have a child for outcome, right? And then you get this.
Well, like, it starts in school, doesn't it? Because it's like, rather than focusing on the process of learning, which is what school really should be about, they just focus on test results. It's like you do all this learning so that you then take a test and you get a grade, and then that leads you to the next thing. It's just insane to me that that is the model for education, especially in, you know, artistic or humanities subjects. It's just like, why are we focusing on test results? Why are we putting labels on something that should just be about growth, organic growth, like the massive amount of growth that you do when you're a child and a teenager, and the processes that you're learning that are going to shape the rest of your life. Rather than focusing on those processes, we're just focusing on teaching kids that it's all about outcomes, it's all about external validation and grades and test results.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the wrong way round. Like, you know, what we truly desire is to have a powerful understanding of ourselves on a deep internal level. Like, we, you know, like what you want isn't money, right? It's like money's great. I love money. It's a facilitator, right? It helps. Like, I'm not devaluing it. But what essentially we're all looking for is this feeling. We're looking for feelings, okay? Because it's like, you might, you know, the Beatles famously became the biggest band in the world, and they had millions of pounds, and then they bought all this stuff, and they said it didn't make us happy, right? It's a good example. So
I have another one. I listened to an interview with Halle Berry recently, and she talked about how for so many years she really wanted to win an Oscar. That was like her goal. And then she, you know, she had this idea that once she won an Oscar, everything would change, and she'd be sent lots of amazing scripts with, you know, incredible roles that would suit her, you know, and allow her to explore the range of her acting ability. But then she won the Oscar and nothing changed, because Hollywood hadn't changed. You know, Hollywood was still not writing roles for black women. You know, it just wasn't something that was a priority in Hollywood. You know, largely white industry, a largely male industry. Writing strong black female roles was just not important at that time. You know, it's getting better now, but this idea that because she had won an Oscar, everything would change around her, and she was, you know, really disappointed afterwards, and just lost a lot of her motivation and her passion and her drive after that, because it was you know, such a kind of anticlimax.
yeah, it's like you can't control. Like, I think what's really important here is to remember and to sort of tune into the areas of which that you have some control over, and realize that you can't control the external world. Like, you don't have control over it. The things you have control over are essentially how you react to what is presented to you. You have a choice there. You know, you get to choose how you perceive the world, right? It's not the outcome of an organization or company in Hollywood, right? You don't have control over that, like you've just articulated in that story. It's like, it's an illusion to think that you can change a system or other people, or right. But, I mean, you can. It's like a paradox, because I think, like, the question that you asked at the beginning of the episode was like, you know, what's the difference between aiming for something and giving up having an outcome for it? Because it's like, I think it's all of an internal development, you know.
I think it's maybe about also having that dream in your mind, you know, and visualizing that outcome that you really, really want, but not taking it too seriously, not clinging to it as like, this is the only way I'll be happy, this is what I have to achieve, this is the only way I'll be taken seriously as an artist or whatever. Just seeing it as loose, you know, and flexible, and, you know, accepting the idea that it can change that outcome, and it probably will change. Just having it there as you know, more of a tool to motivate you in the present moment, because that's what's more important, really. That's the priority, is focusing on now and the process.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, because I think, I mean, you know, I do a lot of these types of techniques, and I'm just sort of like tying this into manifestation techniques now. Like, that, I've been absolutely enthralled by this book, A Course in High Magic by Damien Eccles, and wow, it's amazing. It's got all of these incredible techniques in it, breathing techniques, a lot of like energetic techniques of like qi and sort of qigong inspired practices, but there's a lot of emphasis on manifestation. One of the rules of, if you like, of manifestation is that when you manifest something to become reality, you kind of accept that it is real before you have the result, if you like. It's like, I think, like, the key is, from what I've learned in my life up to this point, is that having faith is really important. Like, you know, the faith that like things will go well is kind of a vital element, because when you feel that, because I think like a lot of this is like kinesthetic, it's feeling. When you feel like you know something, it is, you know, it manifests. It's like when you feel like you know you can do it, you can do it. It's like there's a quote, and I don't know, I can't remember who it's from, but I remember Crust saying it in the mentoring sessions. It's like, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right. So I do think that that's quite a powerful thing to remember. Is like it really, it's not about the outside, right? It's not about the external, it's the internal. It's like you feeling like you have the life that you love, and it's like the external environment can be anything, right? It's like, but once you know, you've got that deep feeling of knowledge that you have love, you love yourself, you love your life, and you deserve everything that you dream about. It's like you're putting that frequency out into the unified field, and that will come back. It's like what you put in comes back. And I do think that it's letting go of you know, that there's sounds in our external environment
that we can't control.
Right? People own cars, I can't control that.
Yeah, that's a great quote, isn't it? I think many of us have just been wired to expect the worst, especially in this country. It's just this like very kind of British cultural way of looking at things, of like, oh, it's all gonna go badly, isn't it? Oh, you know, electricity prices are going up, aren't they? And like, oh, it's a pandemic and it's just gonna get worse and nothing's ever gonna go back to normal and we can't go on holidays and blah blah blah. It's like, what's the next thing to fear, you know? Like, it's just this conveyor belt of like fear and negativity, and it's constant, and it's just so, it's everywhere, you know. It's on the front pages of all of our newspapers, it's on TV, it's in the street, you know. It is really, it takes a lot of strength to go against that and look at things in a positive way, and it's hard. It's definitely something that I've had to condition myself to do, to think, you know, oh, well, things might actually go well in the future. I might actually get to do what I love. I might actually earn money from my writing. I might actually get to go on nice holidays, and I might actually get to live in a nice place, rather than just seeing things as automatically, oh, everything's gonna be shit, and, you know, my life isn't going to go the way I want it to go, and just that natural assumption that things are not going to work out for me. It's this victim mentality and this powerless mentality that I've always battled in my life. I used to be such a victim, and I used to surround myself with other people who had that same mindset of like, oh, I've been dealt all the shit cards. I remember someone saying that to me once, and it's always stuck with me. It's just this you know, victimhood that you can very easily get stuck in, because it's very powerful, and it's almost sort of comforting to see the world as being against you, and to be constantly proven over and over again that like, oh, well, everything's shit, isn't it? And oh, it's raining again. Oh, you know, it's just, it's so much harder to look at things in a positive way. But oh my God, it's just such a better way to live. It's so much more rewarding. And it's much more likely that things are going to go well if you believe that they will go well.
Yeah, belief is key here. Is a key component of this because, like what we believe, what we think is how we act, and how we act is affects the results we get. So, if you believe that you can do it, you can do it, right? It's like, and Jade made a good point there about the types of people that we surround ourselves with. We tend to surround ourselves with people who have similar outlooks on life, and I think like one of the perhaps problems with like schooling, public schooling and stuff like that is like you get thrown in the mix with a load of other people, right? And it's like it's so easy to absorb the general consensus, and the default setting is to be a victim and to be miserable and to complain. That's just like, and I mean, people almost like in America celebrate English people for that. It's like, because it's just, oh yeah, you moan about the weather, it's fun, right? And there is a part of it which is like a kind of cultural identity even. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, but it is what it is, right? That could change. But I think like you have to be very careful about who you spend time with, because you like, whether you consciously are aware of it or not, you do absorb the types of frequencies that people emit, right? Because it's like language has a frequency, right? Like words have emotional weight. When you speak a word, it is not just a sound, but it is an intention. Like it's a thought form, right? So when someone speaks a word at a certain frequency of energy, emotion, right? So it's like when you speak words of low frequency, okay, when most people do, like most normal people speak at, and they say low frequency words like no problem, for example, is really low frequency. Two negative words, but these
sorry is another
sorry one. yeah sorry, like that, people say sorry so much, and it's like what they're doing is they're emitting a very low frequency, and it's like if you're completely surrounded by that all day, every day in an office or wherever you work or wherever you go, it has serious effects on your consciousness and in your energetic field. So I've been very lucky to be extremely cut off and just live in my studio for the last couple of years, really, which has been fantastic. And like I'm thriving as a result, because I'm able to sort of remove myself from those types of environments where these very low frequency patterns are being acted out unconsciously. And I've really managed to really raise my frequency tremendously. I think it's useful to understand these things because you can take control over them, because it's like it's language of other people, but it's also internal language in our minds. That's something very important to take control over, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just have awareness. It's not even about like replacing all of your negative thoughts with positive ones, because that is almost as toxic, like, oh, you're only allowed to think positive things. It's more about just noticing when you say sorry to a stranger in the street or whatever, or noticing when you think about the future in your head and you colour it in a negative way. Having that awareness and just stepping away from that and just thinking, oh, okay, well, that's one way to think about it, but there's also this other way to think about it, and it's okay. They're both on the table. It's more about just having awareness and having compassion for yourself as well, because these are really deeply rooted ways of thinking and conditioning patterns that have probably been passed down to you and have been going on for a really long time. So it does take time, and energy and lots of awareness and lots of just giving yourself a break, just having compassion for yourself and being okay with slip-ups, like, oh, well, I'm thinking a bit negatively there. That's okay. It's just I'm aware of it, and that's, it's fine. I'm not going to judge myself for it. But yeah, I mean, what you were talking about with the relationships, that's a big one, isn't it? Letting go of relationships that don't serve you. It's probably one of the hardest ones, because as human beings, we are, again, conditioned to have relationships, to surround ourselves with people, to seek out friends, seek out connections, and not necessarily put too much thought into who we are surrounding ourselves with. It's more about like having that connection and not wanting to be alone and all of that stuff. But I know for me, certainly, I've shed a lot of friendships over the last few years, and family relationships as well, because I've been on this journey of growth, and I've had to ask myself, does this person want me to succeed? And that's a really difficult question to ask yourself about any of the relationships that you have in your life. Because as we were saying, we do surround ourselves with people who have similar thought patterns to us, similar outlooks on life to us. And if you've been in a negative place for a really long time, it's likely that a lot of the people in your life are also in that negative place. And one of the most painful things about the journey of spiritual growth is that you're growing, and more often than not, the people around you aren't necessarily growing. They're in the same place that you were in before. And I think, when you start the journey of healing, you want to carry everyone with you. You have this urge to give the gift of healing to everyone, for everyone to feel what you're feeling and grow in the way that you're growing, because it feels amazing, and it's very rewarding. So yeah, facing up to the fact that not everyone is growing, and really asking yourself honestly, which relationships are serving me, which people are uplifting me. And there are ways you can answer that just by paying attention to what goes on in your body. I think when you spend time with people, or even when you receive a message from a person, what's the first feeling you notice that comes up? Is it dread? Or is it, heightened energy? Is it excitement? I think that's a good kind of test of, okay, is this person actually dragging my energy down, or are they energizing me? Are they believing in me? Do they think that I can really do this, and do they want me to do this? I know certainly for me, a lot of the friendships that I had that were very old friendships that I'd have, for a long time, I realised that a lot of those people didn't really want me to succeed, because it was more comfortable for them if I were to just stay in that negative place, to stay being a victim, to stay being anxious. That was more comfortable for them, because that's how they felt. And anything that kind of went against that, any indication that I was growing out of that, was threatening to them. So yeah, is your success a threat to the people in your life? Again, really difficult question to ask, and I understand why a lot of people don't want to ask that question, because I think relationships are one of the hardest things to let go of.
Yeah, you have to let go of the outcome of the idea of people being there for you. I think that's been big for me. It's because, we're conditioned to think that things are going to go a certain way, and that's that, you mentioned sort of letting go of family relationships. I've basically let go of every single one personally. I mean, everyone's journey is different, and everyone's path is slightly different. like what has been the correct thing for me to do in my life isn't the same as someone else's life. But I think like there are like common threads, and I think you have to let go of like the idea that things are gonna turn out in a specific way. The Surrender Experiment is a great book that I'm rereading, Michael A. Singer, and he this is his journey. Basically, he just allows the universe to guide him and to guide his decision making, and the whole theme of the book really is that he has to let go of this idea of what he thinks he wants, which is to meditate on his own in solitude. And the universe just has something else in store for him, and he just goes with the flow, and at every step of the way he has to let go of this idea that what he thinks he wants is to be on his own and meditate. And in fact, the life that is laid out for him is quite different from that. He turns from like a sort of hippie alternative person to like one of the a seriously high caliber rich businessman who owns several businesses. So the more we try and cling on to these ideas that at some point of our lives have supported us, as a kid, I think it is a supportive belief to think that your parents will always be there for you, right? Because it's like life is scary, it's unpredictable, you need protection, you need to rely on other people to help you. So the idea that your parents are always going to be there for you is something that you need at that time. However, when you grow up and you start to become independent as a teenager, and you start to have your own life and your own set of beliefs, you realize that you actually disagree with your parents quite strongly. So, and that's just a natural process, really, to have that rebellious part where you can rebel and you can sort of figure things out for yourself, and then you might come back to having a relationship with them in a different way, or you might not. But there is a sense of letting go of the old paradigm that you used to cling on to, that used to serve you, right? And this is the death and rebirth part of the hero's journey story, is that we have to essentially let go of the person that we used to be and let that die to become a new person with a new way of interacting in the world, which doesn't involve this protective mechanism, right? And I think this is just a very important part of our development, and it's painful, like Jade was saying, like it's really uncomfortable to do, and it hurts, like it physically, emotionally and energetically hurts when you're going through letting go. And essentially, like, this is what we're put here to do, right? This is the game. It's like you let go of different periods of your life, you let go of different coping mechanisms, you let go of different perceived ways of living, and eventually you let go of the body and the mind completely in death. So really our lives are a celebration of this theme of letting go, and really submitting to the fact that we don't have control of the outside environment, but we do have control over how we interpret. So I think it's about embracing that. If we really want to be happy, if we really want to live the lives that we deserve, then I feel like this is the road. It's the letting go of that outcome. When I have this, I'll be happy. When I have that, I'll be happy. When I achieve this, I'll be happy. That's the illusion.
So tell us about the track that you are now going to play.
Nice one. Yeah, it's kind of like my aim to like have a fresh piece of music for every show that we do, you know, more or less. It's a great challenge for me. So yeah, atmosphere. No, sorry, what were we playing? Wallflower. Yeah, Wallflower. Yeah. What did you say it was? It was like a Japanese garden, and when you listen to it.
Yeah, it's like a portal opening in the middle of a Japanese garden. I think that's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a different one.
No, that's the one. Nice one. Yeah.
It's kind of mixture of like just really, minimalist beauty combined with this slightly ambiguous sense of, something just being a little bit off. I really like that balance.
Nice one. Yeah, it's great when you describe things that I'm making in music. It paints a picture for me as well, and it creates a more vivid kind of image, because obviously when I write, it's from the subconscious. I think what came through to me with this piece was that I just finished working for Wake the Tiger, an amazement park in Bristol, which we went to visit recently, in its finished form. But I'd spent 6 months developing the music and sound design for Meridia World, which is this incredible collaboration of like 100 artists, and just this whole other dimension of incredible, wonderful, extraordinary places. And I came off the back of that project, and I went into an intense writing phase where I wrote a number of releases that we'll be playing in this season, and this is one of them. And as I mentioned before, my process is subconscious. I'm not using my conscious mind in making decisions. I'm just allowing the flow of life to lead me to make the decisions that I make to create these pieces. So when we listened to it together, you said that, and I was like, wow, like, yeah, that is totally because I've worked, the influence of Meridia World is just so prevalent, right? Because I work with Martin Coate and someone called Black as well, who they do Boomtown Festival, and they were just like super influential, like, and it was a great collaboration. So it's amazing how these things feed into other work. So there was I actually did a design in Meridia World for a Japanese garden, which is one of my favorite designs that I did actually. So yeah, it's amazing how these things seep in. And I did a portal in Meridia World as well. It's like when you go into the park, there's this massive tree, and then there's this portal sound that I designed.
Yeah, if you're in Bristol, go and visit. Yeah. It's really amazing, immersive experience. Very unique, creative. It definitely combines all of the theatrical elements of Boomtown with this kind of trippy, psychedelic world. Very unique. Yeah,
it's a great experience, and just like you said, very unique. There's nothing like it. So yeah, it's really, really worth experiencing. So yeah, we'll play the track. So essentially, it's very inspired by these kind of escapist, dreamy themes, and we hope you enjoy it.
And thank you for listening. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter as well. Just built a Twitter page.
Nice one.
And you can email us at pivotalslice@gmail.com if you have any thoughts or suggestions. And if you want to support us financially, you can buy us a coffee or subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah, massive love to you all in everything that you're doing, and you can have the life that you dream of. It's there for you, and let's all celebrate ourselves and
And self-love.
Self-love, yeah, love ourselves, and we love you, and we believe in you, and thanks for being here on this journey.